ESPN 1080.com Insider Show is on the air here on ESPN 1080 The Team. I'm Eric Lopez, your UCF and Magic Insider, joined alongside Andrew Melnick, your NBA Magic and I guess now Lockout Insider?
Unfortunately.
That's Andrew there. And no Jason Collette this week. He's on assignment. He's covering the Rays and the Cardinals series and then the Wiggles concert that follows at the drop there, Andrew.
We all know he's really there for the Wiggles.
Absolutely, and that's who wouldn't be, right?
Sure.
So we do have our producer, Brian Wininger, our producer, who will be on later here, Andrew, to talk.
He's our MMA insider, so he's probably going to talk MMA.
I'm talking Wiggles.
Wiggles breakdown, yeah. So coming up, a heavy show today. We'll be joined by B.J. Rains at about 10:35, as we'll be talking Cardinals baseball. Of course, Cardinals and the Rays this weekend going on at the Trop. B.J. Rains is a Cardinals beat writer for the Fox Sports Midwest. We will also keep you updated on the live men's final of Wimbledon. Melnick is just glued to the TV set as Novak Djokovic has a one-set lead on Rafael Nadal. He won the first set 6-4. I know Andrew is fired up for that.
I'd like to see him win.
There you go. We'll get into that later on the show. And basically that'll be it. So, of course, we'll break down, recap UFC 132. Pretty eventful night last night. We'll get into that later on the show. But Andrew, of course, this top story today, we're about less than 2 hours away from the MLB All-Star selection show, which will be on TBS. So we get to be the first to kind of give us our thoughts. What are you expecting now as far as the MLB All-Star selection shows today?
Well, the fans vote, so I'm expecting a lot of other fans to be angry, like every year.
Absolutely. That'll be an interesting process, of course. The All-Star game to be held in Arizona in a couple of weeks. Now, even though Jason's not here, he has sent us an email. He has sent in his picks who he thinks should be the All-Star game starters, Andrew. And then I have my own selections, and I want to see what you think of these selections. Now, first, Jason has, of course, at catcher in the National League, Brian McCann, and in the American League, Alex Sevilla of the Detroit Tigers. Any questions with those two?
Oh, no. He got them both absolutely right. Brian McCann's having another huge year. Russell Martin's going to be the starting catcher. Just because he's a Yankee player, he's going to get those votes. But Alex Sevilla's had a good year, absolutely deserves that spot.
I agree. I think Martin will start because of the fans, and then Avila will be the backup. Is there a catcher that you think will get, as a result, will get kind of jitted from the All-Star game, or is this, Martin and whatever is all the same?
There's kind of a lot of bad numbers at that position in the American League, so I don't know if there's going to be guys more worthy of Russell Martin. I mean, his batting average, his OBP have creeped down, though. He's getting on base still a little bit, but those power numbers early in the season have kind of gone away. There's going to be maybe more deserving people, but no one who it's some gross outrage if they don't get in.
First base. By the way, back up to Brian McCann. I have Yadier Molina of St. Louis. You could go Miguel Montero of Arizona. Do you have a strong preference either way, or do you have someone else in mind?
I mean, you could go either way with it. I think we're probably a little more concerned with getting the starting lineup correct,
sure.
Even though that's not going to happen.
No, not going to happen. First base, this is going to be jam-packed in both sides. You got Adrian Gonzalez of Boston, Mark Teixeira of the Yankees. I think they're both locks, would you say, right? I mean,
oh, yeah, Adrian Gonzalez is first in batting, first in RBIs, and Mark Teixeira is 25 home runs. So I think that's a pretty easy one. I'd have Gonzalez the starter, Teixeira the backup.
Gonzalez I have as the starter, but if Teixeira somehow wins that spot, I don't think it's a big gripe.
I think Gonzalez has been better, but no, it's not like, we're going to completely kill someone with 25 home runs.
The question is, you got Paul Konerko of Chicago's had a monster year, Miguel Cabrera at Detroit in the American League. Do all four get in?
I don't think so. And, as good as Miguel Cabrera's been, again, I think he's going to be the odd man out because I can't see another White Sox getting in. So I think they're going to have to make it Paul Konerko as that White Sox representative.
Yeah. And then that's going to be tight. Then the National League, by the way, Jason agrees with us. He's got Gonzalez in the American League. He's got Prince Fielder as his starter in the National League.
Oh, does he? I actually have Prince Fielder, too.
Yeah, he does. Problem is, Albert Pujols right now is winning the vote.
Yeah.
And as we'll get into with B.J. Rains later on the show, it looks like Albert Pujols will be back now in time for the All-Star game.
Yeah, I guess he's taken a shorter time to recover than anyone thought, and he is going to play in the All-Star game. And then, of course, you've got last year's MVP. We've got Joey Votto having another excellent year.
I have him in, yeah.
And, Todd Helton's having another good year, actually, out in Colorado.
I don't have him in.
I don't either. But
I got Michael Morse as the Nationals guy.
I could see that.
That's the tricky part. Remember, every team's got to be represented.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I don't have Miguel Cabrera in the game, even though I think he absolutely should be.
Second base, so that's the first base American League, National League. Second base, I got Robinson Cano and Ben Zobrist representing the American League second base. Cano is going to start. I don't think, based on the fans, is it warranted?
He has a huge lead. Ben Zobrist is, I think, a legitimate all-star, but Robinson Cano's got better power numbers in terms of home runs, even though Zobrist has been a double machine. My only problem ever with Cano has been his patience a little bit. I'd like to see him take more walks and get on base more. But when you're hitting 292, he's got 14 home runs. I don't think I have a problem with Cano being the starter.
Jason has Ben Zobrist as his starter.
He makes some good points with Zobrist.
Right,
better defensive player.
Yeah.
Like we said, is a doubling machine this year. So if you name Zobrist the starter, I don't think it's outrageous.
National League, he's got Ricky Weeks as your starting second baseman. Do you?
Yep, absolutely, yeah.
Brandon Phillips would more than likely be the backup. It's a weak year in the National League. Remember, Chase Utley's been hurt. One of them is going to start. Well, it was a very close vote between Phillips and Weeks. I expect one to start.
The other one's going to be in, yeah.
Shortstop, American League. Here's where the controversy begins. Derek Jeter is going to be the starter more than likely. He's had a big lead at the shortstop voting.
Yeah, and he's coming back tomorrow, so he's certainly going to be the starter and going to play in the game. Asdrubal Cabrera's had a much better season.
He should be the one he's been tremendous, having a career year. He should be the starter. He will be the backup in that game. Yeah. I also threw in Johnny Peralta in there, even though Peralta can play some short, play some third. I have him in the All-Star game as well from Detroit. You do you, or do you do not?
I only did a starting lineup, but I don't have any problem with that. I mean, Jeter, not only has Jeter been hurt, he was having a terrible year before he got hurt, so I have no problem with that pick.
National League shortstop, Jose Reyes has been the best player at shortstop. He got hurt yesterday. We don't know his status, what will be, but let's just presume he's healthy. He will be in the All-Star game. Jason Collette has him as his starter, but right now it's Troy Tulowitzki who is starting. The good news is I think Tulowitzki would be in anyway as a reserve.
Yeah.
But obviously Reyes should be the starter.
Yeah, Reyes should be the starter. Tulowitzki, a guy who could get in there. If you're talking about the Cubs, maybe Starlin Castro sneaks in because they need a representative. He's had a very, very good season. I'm not sure he will, but those are the three guys I see getting in out there. Castro, I'm not sure if he does. I think maybe they go...
no, that's a good choice.
I think maybe they go Carlos Marmol.
That's
instead.
who I have as the Cubs representative, is Carlos Marmol. Third base now, American League, Alex Rodriguez will be the fan vote, and I think we all agree he should. Jason has him as a starter.
There's been years where A-Rod has maybe undeservedly made the All-Star game, got off to a slow start. Not this year. He absolutely deserves it. He's been the best third baseman in the American League.
I have Michael Young from Texas as his backup. You could go Peralta in that route, but I got Michael Young.
Yeah, and you can feel good for Michael Young after everything that happened early on in the season when they signed Adrian Beltre, who had that monster year last year in Boston. They signed him. We had the controversy, Michael Young going to get traded. He didn't want to be traded. Switch positions, things like that, and he's quietly had a very good year.
Oh boy, here we go. This will be the weakest position. Third base, National League. Right now, Placido Polanco is winning the vote. We'll see if he holds on. Jason Collette has Chase Heatley from San Diego, thinks he should be the starter. The problem is he's a San Diego Padre, so this is probably for a lot of our audience, probably the first time Chase Heatley's even been heard of.
Yeah, there is one Padre who can hit. As surprising as that is for us.
No, I think he should get in, and I think he will get in as a reserve. I don't think he'll win the vote.
No, Polanco's going to win the vote.
I don't have an issue with Polanco getting in either.
I don't either, but I would have Chase as the starter.
Yeah.
I have him as the starter on my roster here.
Yeah, I would agree. So I think that's going to be the two third basemen. It's pretty weak. Obviously, a lot of injuries in that position. David Wright to Nathan, one of them. Chipper Jones not having the big of a year there. Outfield, American League. You got Jose Bautista, Curtis Granderson, and then the tight race between Jacoby Ellsbury and Josh Hamilton. Who knows who that goes? My question to you is, do both Hamilton and Ellsbury get in regardless?
I think they do. I mean, I could see keeping Josh Hamilton out because of the injuries, Jacoby Ellsbury, it's been kind of quiet because Boston's acquisitions were so publicized, and they've got Pedroia was an MVP before, but he's had a fantastic season in the outfield. He's hitting, he's getting on base better than he ever has before. He's a deserving All-Star, and I think I'd have him as the third starter out there. Bautista, clearly a lock. Been probably the best hitter in, I wouldn't even say probably, he's been the best hitter in baseball all year. He's having another fantastic year. Would be the MVP if the season ended today. And then Curtis Granderson's got 21 home runs. It's tough to argue that. He plays well in center field, and I'd have Ellsbury as the third outfielder.
That's Jason Collette's also starting outfield in the American League as well. I think Ellsbury will eke out Josh Hamilton when the vote comes out today to be that third outfielder. Do you agree with that?
There's Red Sox fans everywhere, and once they saw how close that is, they got out and voted. I mean, you remember probably 10, 15 years ago, they got in trouble for stuffing ballots with Nomar. Yeah. Nomar was breaking some record for votes in an All-Star game.
Of course, by the way, if that were to happen, if that's the starting lineup, very good chance for the first time in his career that Ichiro will not be in the All-Star game.
Yeah, and, kind of funny because usually we see this guy get so much support from over in Japan that he dominates the voting. Usually is first in voting among outfielders, I believe, but he's not having as good a year. He's tailed off a little bit. His team's actually probably exceeding expectations a little bit, but not necessarily because of him. So, I think it's fair to leave him off the roster this year.
National League, you got Ryan Braun. As Jason Collette starting outfielder in the National League,
I think
Ryan
he's
Braun.
An easy pick.
Got Matt Kemp and then McCutchen from Pittsburgh. Two of them who probably won't be starters, but he feels they should be.
Matt Kemp should be a starter over anyone in the league so far this year. He's been incredible. What I just said about Bautista in the AL, you can almost say about Matt Kemp in the NL. Ryan Braun, I think, is a pretty easy pick. Best player on a really good team.
Yeah.
And McCutchen is fine with me. I jotted down Berkman here with his 21 home runs.
Yeah, I got Berkman. That's who I have.
I wouldn't have a problem with McCutchen.
The fans right now have Braun, Berkman, and Matt Holliday. Now, Holliday's probably going to get in as a reserve anyway.
Yeah, Holliday's had a good year. Another deserving player. I wouldn't have him in the starting lineup, though.
I have Justin Upton in the game as a reserve. Yep. Jay Bruce, Cincinnati, outfielder. And then my only Astro, Hunter Pence.
Yeah, Hunter Pence has actually had a really, really good year. No one knows about it because that team is just in terrible shape. They've got and not really a whole lot of prospects for the future. Sorry, Astros fans.
What about the other? Any complaints with any other selections in the outfield there?
Justin Upton, I certainly am not going to complain about. Jay Bruce having another very, very good year. So, no. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with those two.
I think we agree David Ortiz will get in. He'll be the DH for the American League.
Yeah, as he should be.
He's had a big year. Unbelievable comeback for him.
Yeah, he's had a couple. He wound up having good years the last 2 years, but just got off to terrible, terrible starts. Still wound up with over 30 home runs and bounced back in the second half of the year. But this year, he's come out on fire to start. Leads the team in home runs. He's just been excellent.
I also have Victor Martinez in as a reserve. He's played DH most of the year in Detroit. That could be questionable, though, depending on how the managers want to go that route.
Second leading batter in the American League. Power numbers are not there this year, but he's the second leading batter. He's been good.
All right, pitchers now. I'm going to throw out the names quick because we're almost out of time. Pitchers. American League, you tell me when you think you have an issue with anybody in particular. Justin Verlander, who I have starting.
Obvious.
Josh Beckett, Boston.
Yep.
James Shields, Tampa Bay.
Yep.
We have also Scott Baker as the only twin.
You got to have a twin in there. I would maybe argue that one, but you can't because we've got to find a twin somewhere.
Yeah, let me know who you got as a twin. I got Michael Pineda as the only Seattle Mariner.
Yeah, I could see that. They're going to have to get a representative. He's been good. I mean, record doesn't show it, but we saw record kind of means nothing when you're talking about a team like that. With King Felix won the Cy Young 13-12 last year.
I have Gio Gonzalez as the only Oakland A.
You got to have an A, and he's been good.
Jared Weaver is the only Angel. Sorry, Brian. I know you're a diehard Angel fan, but it's been a tough year. Although over 500 now.
And Jared Weaver is really, really good.
He is. I got Chris Perez, closer from Cleveland. He's been tremendous. I got C.J. Wilson, Texas, starting pitcher. CC Sabathia, the ace for the Yankees. And
yep.
Mariano Rivera. You can't have an All-Star game without Mariano Rivera, best closer in the sport.
Yeah, and that's how good pitching's been. We're almost overlooking a guy like Sabathia. We're barely even talking about him.
I almost forgot about him, and you're right. He's near my end. And then I have Kyle Farnsworth I actually have as the last guy in for Tampa Bay. No David Price, although we both think he'll get in.
James Shields scheduled to pitch just before, so he's going to not make the All-Star. I think Justin Verlander won't be in the game either because he's scheduled to pitch before.
Correct. So we think Beckett will probably be the actual starter, even though we both think Verlander. We all think Verlander?
Yeah, Verlander should be, yeah.
Okay.
Then Beckett or Weaver will be.
Got 3 Phillies, Roy Halladay, Cliff Lee, and Cole Hamels. No issues there, right?
Really? No.
2 Braves, Jared Jurgens, and Tommy Hanson.
I don't argue there. I mean, you wonder why these two teams are separating themselves from the pack a little bit. That's why.
Exactly. Clayton Kershaw from the Dodgers, Matt Cain, and Tim Lincecum. That's the controversial one. Remember, Bruce Bochy there. I mean, Lincecum's great, gets a lifetime achievement, I think, here. That's going to be the controversy there.
If you look at Lincecum's win-loss record, you could have problems, but if you look at his other numbers, he's been awesome again.
Yeah, no, I agree. So you don't have an issue. You would have no issues with him in.
No, I'm not totally sure he'll make it. You're right, though, with his manager managing the game. He's got an excellent shot.
I have Anibal Sanchez as the only Marlin.
You got to have a Marlin, and he's been good.
You could argue Gabby Sanchez, but first base is loaded in the National League, as we've talked about. I have Joel Hanrahan, the closer for Pittsburgh, who's been lights out, has not blown a save all year. Heath Bell from San Diego.
2 Pirates.
How about that, huh? And they could make a case for Jeff Karstens, their starting pitcher. Carlos Marmol, the closer from Chicago. He's the only Cub I have. Well, you said Castro's not a bad option.
I don't think Castro's going to make it. If he does, I don't think anyone should complain. Maybe no one's watching the Cubs because they have the second worst record in the league, but this kid is fantastic. Carlos Marmol, I don't think he's just making it because he's a Cub. He's a deserving All-Star.
And then I got J.J. Putz from the host team Arizona. He's had a great year as a closer, bounce-back year for him. And then Brian Wilson, because you can't have an All-Star game without Big Beard, right?
You can with the way he's pitched at times this year, but I don't want to, if that's the question.
Yeah, right? You can't. You got to have some entertainment. So that's our All-Star picks. Check it out at noon. We'll see how we fared, and we'll see how it turns out. I think we know what we're doing. So, all right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the sport that was on the front page of ESPN.com last night, and it wasn't Major League Baseball. We'll tell you about it next. You're listening to ESPN1080.com Insider Show here on ESPN 1080, The Team.
Do you have a structured settlement?
I want my cash now.
Are you getting payments over time for a legal settlement?
I want my cash now.
If you have a structured settlement and you want your cash now, call CBC Funding for a free cash review of your structured settlement.
Call 800-610-8125, 800-610-8125. That's 800-610-8125.
Do you have a structured settlement?
I want my cash now.
Are you getting payments over time from a legal settlement?
I want my cash now.
If you have a structured settlement and you want your cash now, call CBC Funding for a free cash review of your structured settlement.
Call 800-610-8125, 800-610-8125. That's 800-610-8125.
AutoZone. Get fired up for your summer travel with a trip to AutoZone. Get in the zone. AutoZone. Heat kills batteries, and the last place you want to be is stranded somewhere with a car that won't start. So if you need a new battery, head to AutoZone and grab a Duralast, designed to work in extreme temperatures and available only at AutoZone. Power through the heat this summer. Get to AutoZone today. Get in the zone. AutoZone.
If you're a diabetic, you and I both know the process of testing your blood sugar levels can be painful. At times, it seems your fingers can only take so much of the painful pricking. Well, now there's an alternative from Advanced Medical Support. Call us today to learn how you can get a state-of-the-art meter with the newest pain-free technology for free, so you won't have to prick your fingers anymore. These are alternate site testing meters that test less sensitive areas of your body. We'll even deliver your supplies for free, bill Medicare or your insurance company for you, and remind you when your supplies are running low. And when you call us, please be sure to ask for your free pain-free meter. You must be covered by Medicare or private insurance to qualify for the pain-free meter. So call today.
800-419-2201, 800-419-2201. For free delivery of your diabetic testing supplies, call 800-419-2201.
Go behind the scenes with your favorite Magic guests Tuesday through Thursday at 5:05 p.m.
The studio. That's where the magic happens.
Only on ESPN 1080, The Team, and ESPN1080.com.
I think that yes, it will be kind of the next level, but also, I think me and Uriah kind of set the bar for everything for the 135ers especially. I mean, we had something to show everybody in the world today, that 135ers can headline a card, 145ers can headline a card, and it will be exciting. And we can compete with heavyweights, 170 pounders, everybody. We all train hard, we all work hard. Just because we're little guys doesn't mean we can't scrap.
That is Dominic Cruz, your still bantamweight champion, after his win over Uriah Faber last night in the main event of UFC 132. This is ESPN1080.com Insider Show. I'm Eric Lopez, your UCF insider. Andrew Melnick, the NBA/Magic/Lockout insider.
I don't like that last part of the name.
Nobody did. I don't know what else to tell you. There's no NBA. You're like the players. You're cut off. You can check out his work, whatever that will be, folks. Send in suggestions to Andrew what he wants to write about, because he needs help. He needs a job.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we're not even limited to sports.
No, but instead, you know who's excited about this lockout? Is our producer, Brian Wininger. You know why?
I'm kind of excited, but I see an opening.
You see an opening, because we're going to talk some MMA, my friend. And what do we do, Andrew, when we need to talk MMA? We need some answers. Who do we go to?
Well, we go to our producer /golf/MMA insider.
Wow.
And you're lucky that Wiggles concert's tonight at 8, so I got time.
You got
to do
time.
this.
You've got
/Wiggles.
Wiggles, very good. All right, Brian, let's get to it. The main event, start with that last night. UFC 132, Dominic Cruz against Uriah Faber on the spotlight, 135-pound bantamweight division, main event of UFC for the first time that I can recall, and a big card. And Dominic Cruz gets a unanimous decision and gets revenge for his only loss to Uriah Faber 4 years ago. Your thoughts on the fight?
4 years ago, my thoughts, it pretty much went the way I thought it was going to go. Dominic really controlled the middle and used that size advantage on Faber. And it was an exciting fight. And if you look at the entire card, it was stacked from top to bottom. And it's pretty impressive that a bantamweight card or a bantamweight fight can headline and deliver.
This is what they're buying out all their competition for, right? We wouldn't have seen this had they not been able. They bought Strikeforce and the WEC. We wouldn't have seen things like this. What I want to know, if anyone who watched the fight saw how close it was, what judge is scoring at 50-45?
That's a good question, and that's been kind of a downfall, if you want to call that, is the judging system in MMA. There's been so many different fights that have kind of left yourself SMHing or shaking your head. But I agree with you, man. I don't know who or what he was watching to score that. You could give Faber the 4th round. Maybe the 5th round was a tie, but for the most part, if you were watching the fight like we were, Dominic pretty much handled that fight.
I had it 3-2. Maybe 4. I could see an argument for 4-1 as well.
Yeah. I had a close fight. Let me ask you this. Could you see a third fight between these two after all? It's now 1-1 in that rivalry. It wasn't like it was a bad fight. I think the majority of the audience enjoyed that fight. Could we see a third?
See, I could for this respect. The bantamweight division is kind of, if you want to say, the weaker division out of all the divisions. You don't have that superstar logjam that you would at the lightweight, welterweight, all that, where a guy like Uriah Faber could win a fight or two and then get that title shot again. Right now, the contender, if it's not Faber again, is Brian Bowles, who fought Cruz just a year ago in the WEC lightweight championship. So I don't know if people want to see that again. You got Miguel Torres up there, but yeah, I could see a third fight just for promotion.
I hope so. Personally, that's all I want to say.
There you go, Melnick. Other notes in the card, big story. A lot of people expected a legend from the sport to retire after his fight last night, and that happened, but it wasn't who people thought it would be.
It was the wrong legend.
Yeah.
It turned out that afterwards, Dana White, it's looking like Vanderlei. That's the last time you're going to see Vanderlei Silva in the octagon. And it makes sense. He's 2-6 in the UFC since he's gotten in back in 2006. 2-6. Okay, what other fighter is there out there that could co-headline a card being 2-6. It's Vanderlei. He's a people's champ. He's such an exciting fighter. But he's taking the same path as all these other guys do, like a Chuck Liddell. They reach a point where Dana White's just not going to throw him to the wolves anymore.
I mean, he's 35 years old, and we saw him. He actually had a couple good shots before he got knocked out yesterday. We see him go out in 27 seconds. Now, I know, anyone who's watched Chris Lieben or Silva fight before, I mean, that could happen. Either one of them could have done the exact same thing with the way they punch. But, yeah, I think it's the end for him. You just don't want to see a guy like that. I mean, we saw it, you're right, with Chuck Liddell. We saw him at the end of his career just not necessarily no names, but losing to guys that he would have handled easily just a few years earlier.
Well, and you could see the sport of MMA progressing to the fact where it's so competitive now, and there's such great fighters out there where a guy like, Kent Shamrock, Tank Abbott back in the day, who can just show up and get a payday. That's not the case anymore, and that's partly why Dana White has grown the sport so well, is the legitimacy. And
now we've got with them, we've talked about all the other corporations they've bought. We've got virtually every good fighter in the world fighting in the same place.
Yep.
And Silva's jaw is a big question mark now, right? I mean, that's suspect at best.
Totally, and that's the other thing. When you see these veteran guys go up there, and once you get knocked out, it's so weird. You have like a ticking time clock in your head where it just loosens it up where you're more susceptible to the knockout. And I want to play a clip for you guys. Chris Lieben has huge admiration for Vanderlei Silva, and let's take a look at his thoughts on the fight.
Vanderlei's my hero. Obviously, before the fight, I don't want to say he's always been my favorite fighter, and that's why I wanted to fight him. I didn't think I was going to win, I'm not going to lie. I didn't tell my camp that, but I was like, I just really want to fight Vanderlei, and I know it'll be tough. I only visualized a 3-round war. I never visualized a quick knockout because I knew that'd be impossible against him. I couldn't believe it would have happened. I'm still in shock. He cracked me with a good right. I felt it, and then I just started wading forward. Like I said, I told him before, I said, Vanderlei has never fought somebody that when they get hit moves forward. When I get hit, I come straight at you.
That's the truth. He's a psycho.
He is psycho. What's next for him?
Chris Lieben. Okay, the last fight he had, he got a pretty good knockout. He got knocked out by Brian Stann his last fight before this. So, I could see him. I mean, he needs 2 more fights before he's in that title picture again, and it's anyone's guess at this point.
Tito Ortiz, one of the top 5 names in this sport history, thought to be his last fight, got inducted to the Hall of Fame this weekend, beats Ryan Bader via submission, his first win in 5 years. He got him with a nice right hand in there, and then put in that Galante move, that submission choke move.
Secured the guillotine.
The guillotine, that's what it was. Thank you.
Yeah.
And he gets a big win over Ryan Bader. Some questions is Bader just was not very overrated, or does Tito Ortiz have something left in the tank? What's next for Tito Ortiz? I mean, was Dana White happy that he's still got to fight, or what's the story here?
See, I don't know. Like, I was talking to you earlier about how Tito Ortiz just recently got inducted in the UFC Hall of Fame, and I think they kind of rushed that because of the fact that I think everyone else was thinking that this was Tito's last fight.
5-1 underdog.
5-1 underdog. So, but that's another example of that. You can't count anyone out. I mean, Tito Ortiz's knock his whole career, or at least the last 5 years, has been he's one-dimensional. Back in 04-05 when the sport wasn't really developed, you could get away with just being a great wrestler, but Tito has had no power in his hands, and he knocked Bader to the ground and then beat him at his own wrestling game, and locked that guillotine choke in. It was I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it actually happened that way.
Yeah.
But as far as what's next for Tito, he's as a promotional standpoint, he's a big name. He's still a big name, and I think what is next for him is he's gonna take the winner of Rich Franklin and Little Nog. That fight's gonna happen on August 17th. I think that's the next matchup for Tito.
That'd be huge. Mm-hmm. That's a huge fight. Now let's talk about. I mentioned it earlier, but as we were going to break the first time, this was the headline on ESPN.com. If you went to the website, 11:30 around that night, there was a picture. This was the top story. In contrast, people are not even aware, they had a heavyweight boxing title fight yesterday afternoon, in fact, in Germany. Vladimir Klitschko.
Against R. Kelly.
Officially,
yeah.
Some would say it's David Hay, but he might have been hiding and going as R. Kelly. And it was a very bad fight. Hay did not even bother to throw punches, talked a lot, didn't back it up. and Klitschko just pretty much had an easy fight, defends his title again. You had Al Bernstein on the Beat of Sports Friday morning, which Brian, by the way, for those that don't know, produces that show. He was clamoring that boxing is fine, it's on the uptick, that the media is just not caught up to that. Yesterday was not a good example of that.
No, it wasn't. but no one's shocked. It's pretty much the thing with boxing. I believe it has 12 rounds left of life in it, meaning the 12 rounds that Pacquiao and Mayweather are potentially going to fight. Then after that, what's left? What's left? And that's fine. Boxing, I don't get the whole boxing and MMA comparing the two.
Right.
They're two different sports.
Correct.
You take a great boxer in an MMA match, the boxer's going to get beaten down. You take a great UFC fighter and put him in a boxing match, the UFC fighter's going to get beaten down. It's just, there's no need for this comparison anymore, I think. And, I mean, boxing kind of did it to himself.
Well, that's the thing. They self-destructed in there, Andrew.
Well, I think the only reason there is a comparison is because boxing used to be
the combat
so
sport.
huge, and now this is moving into the limelight. This is the pay-per-views we're ordering every month, or seemingly every 2-3 weeks nowadays, which is fine by me. And we don't have, you're right, we have one clear matchup in the heavyweight division. It's funny, we do have two really, really good fighters, and they're never going to fight because they're brothers. And they own now all the heavyweight titles, all 27 of them, or however many there are. Those two own all of them. We're not ever going to see that fight, and that's something like that. If we had two heavyweights that were this good, and we saw Vitaly Klitschko virtually retired Lennox Lewis, and that was his last fight when they stopped that fight.
A decade ago,
Yeah, because Klitschko couldn't stop bleeding. If we had two heavyweights like that were actually going to fight, maybe we'd have something else to promote. But you're right. I mean, outside of Mayweather and Pacquiao, they got to hope something else comes along. And it's not like it's impossible. I mean, we just had a few years ago, during the 90s, early 2000s, that lightweight, middleweight division was absolutely stacked, and we still had good fights all the time. And we just don't now. I mean, we have Mayweather and Pacquiao taking fights against washed-up Sugar Shane Mosley, just guys who can't hold either guy's jock. And until we see this fight, that could be the last hurrah for boxing. I mean, that's going to be fantastic. They're going to bank. It's going to make a ton of money.
Yeah.
Those guys are going to get paid $20 million or whatever a piece. And after that, it's tough to see what's coming next.
Well, you made a great point when saying that the Klitschko brothers hold all of the belts plural. Like the UFC,
there's a lot of belts.
That's why the UFC is so great. You know where your fighters stand. There's one belt. There's one prize. And the thing with boxing too, there's no big heavyweight American boxer.
Yeah.
No, and that does not help at all.
I mean, even yesterday, David Hay is from England.
Right.
That's correct.
But I think we wanted this new superstar heavyweight boxer to emerge so much that we took David Hay, who wasn't even a heavyweight, who moved up from cruiserweight, who just, smacked his gums around and created some buzz. We wanted that so bad that we were building up this, turned out to be a chump heavyweight contender. And, I mean, that's just the struggles we have with boxing.
Klitschko barely even had to punch yesterday.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the disconcerting thing. So we are a little behind, but that, of course, Andrew, who do we go to when we need analysis?
Or golf /MMA /Wiggles /boxing all combat sports insider.
All the above. Thanks,
Brian Winter here. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll go back to baseball. The St. Louis Cardinals-Tampa Bay Rays series going on. At the Trop, we'll be joined by Cardinals beat writer from the FoxSportsMidwest.com's BJ Raines up next to talk about that. And Albert Pujols back? We'll talk about it next. You're listening to ESPN1080.com Insider Show on ESPN 1080 The Team.
Please be some discussion.
A lot to smile about over the years. But as an athlete and the father of young athletes, I know how important it is to protect yourself from injury. That's why I've teamed up with the American Association of Orthodontists to encourage athletes to play it safe. I've seen firsthand how quickly an accident can happen when out on the field, the court, or even the dance floor. Wearing protective gear like mouth guards, face masks, and helmets can reduce the risk of injury and keep you in the game. Visit braces.org.
Business owners of Orlando looking to improve your search engine placement? End the search with MyOrlandoDirectory.com. Have a story to tell, a product to sell, or an event to promote? MyOrlandoDirectory.com to place. This innovative new site comes complete with tools to track your company's marketing program to compete and stay ahead in today's fast-paced business world. Reach over 5,000 business owners through visual and virtual tours. Learn more at MyOrlandoDirectory.com. That's MyOrlandoDirectory.com.
It might be the door alarm, or the new safety drain covers, the pool fencing, even the swim lessons. But the fact is, you can never know which safety step will save a life, until it does. Adding multiple safety steps to your safe pool practices can mean the difference between a close call and a call to 911. Simple steps save lives. To learn some new ones, visit poolsafely.gov. A public service message from the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission, the American Red Cross, and YMCA of the USA.
New guidelines show it's relatively safe for women with epilepsy to become pregnant, but it's recommended they avoid the seizure drug valproate since the drug can cause birth defects. For more information on these guidelines from the American Academy of Neurology and American Epilepsy Society, visit thebrainmatters.org.
Are you avoiding a telephone because you know it's another bill collector? Does your mail go straight in the trash without being opened? If you're living in fear of your creditors and have $12,000 or more in credit card and other unsecured debt, there is help with Debt Shield. Our settlement specialists will negotiate with your creditors to try and reduce your debt by as much as 50%, maybe saving you thousands. We'll consolidate all of your debt into one lower monthly payment, and we're with you every step of the way until you are completely debt-free. If you're falling behind in your bills and have a minimum of $12,000 in credit card and unsecured debt and you feel like there's no end in sight, call Debt Shield. We may save you thousands of dollars on your debt and help you avoid filing bankruptcy. Call 877-861-DEBT, 877-861-DEBT, 877-861-DEBT.
And we welcome you back here to ESPN 1080 The Team. Here is it's ESPN1080.com Insider Show. Eric Lopez, your UCF and Magic Insider, alongside Andrew Melnick, your Magic NBA/Lockout Insider.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's going to be part of the title for a long time.
That's correct. Brian Wininger doing a great job as our producer. No Jason Collette, our Rays Insider, normally on the show. He is covering the Rays Cardinals series up at the Trop, but we really know he's there for the Wiggles concert afterwards. But we do have someone on the air that can more than, or is capable of covering the Rays Cardinals series, because he covers the St. Louis Cardinals and Major League Baseball for Fox Sports Midwest. That is our own BJ Raines, who's been the beat writer for the Cardinals for 3 years. BJ, welcome to the show.
Andrew, Eric, how we doing, guys?
Doing
Good,
great.
good.
Give me your thoughts here so far on this Cardinals-Rays series through the first two games. They split going into the game today.
Well, you mean the Smokers and the or whatever the I guess they're still the Cardinals, but yeah, I like those. I like those uniforms yesterday. I really thought at least the Cardinals ones were very sharp. But just it's been an entertaining series. First two games. Obviously, I was taking some slack on Twitter for jinxing last night's game when it was 1-0 and the Brewers were down 7-0, and I said something about potentially having a 2-game lead in the division. Next thing you know, Cardinals give up 5 runs in the inning, and the Brewers come back from 7-0 to win 8-7. And I was the one responsible for it. I guess that was the reason Kyle McCullough was leaving up some balls in the sixth inning there. But it's been a pretty good series. I mean, the Cardinals obviously don't have Albert Pujols. That's the obvious storyline, and they're really struggling. They were 1-5 without him to start with. Really playing bad baseball. Have lost 12 out of 15, and kind of turned it around a little bit. Swept the Orioles up in Baltimore, and then came down and won the game Friday night. But they really need Albert back. I mean, there's just no sugarcoating that. David Freese at third base has been a big boost for them coming back from his injury. But the Rays have a good team. The Rays, have a young team and are doing it, with not a lot of expensive guys on the roster. Really, as you guys know, a payroll of $41 million or something is remarkable to have that kind of talent and be competing with the Red Sox and Yankees in that division with that low of a payroll this year. So once again, Joe Maddon's doing it, and it's been a great series, and it should be a classic third game, hopefully this afternoon.
Yeah, it's kind of an underrating pitching matchup today. Kyle Lohse versus Jeremy Hellickson. Both guys have been pretty good. In fact, Kyle Lohse, a lot of people made a case as an All-Star this year. How good has he been?
He's been pretty good. He was really good early in the season, then he kind of had a lull in the middle, and then he's been good, and there is some talk in St. Louis about him being an All-Star. I think he's probably just going to miss it based on the fact that there are a lot of good pitchers this year in the National League. I mean, I thought he had a really good chance. I was talking about it the other day, and then I went and looked at some of the numbers that some of these pitchers in the National League are putting up. And his first year with the Cardinals, I think he was 9-2 at the All-Star break and got snubbed. And I think that's always kind of, he's always wanted to get back to the All-Star game and wanted to make it after getting snubbed that year. And I don't think this is going to be the year for him. But just remarkable when you look at the injury he had, and he missed, a lot of time, had a rare forearm surgery. He was actually hit by the Royals' Ron Mayhay in 2009 while he was batting on the forearm, and had a forearm injury and had a surgery that had only been done to one baseball player before in history. It was a very rare surgery on his forearm. A lot of motocross riders and long-distance runners have had the surgery, and he was the first one to have it. And he for 2 years really struggled until they figured out what the problem was. And ever since then, this year, starting with spring training, he's been on fire, and has just been great. And you can make a case. I don't think anyone would argue with you. He's been the best Cardinals pitcher all year long, and that's saying something. And you've got a rotation with Chris Carpenter and Jaime Garcia and Jake Westbrook in it, and Kyle Loesch has been the best one. So it should be a good matchup tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing the Rays guy as well. I know he's a young up-and-coming guy, and it should be a fun afternoon.
And Loesch has been huge. I mean, Cardinals have had a dramatic year. It's been they lost Adam Wainwright in spring training. Matt Holliday's been hurt. You've had this whole story with Pujols and his contract situation. Then he goes down with an injury, but yet you're tied for first as of today with Milwaukee with a 45-39 record. And then you got the surprise of a lot of people, Pittsburgh, 2.5 back, and then the defending NL Central champion Cincinnati's only at 500, but they're 3 games back. I mean, give me the breakdown of the NL Central.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm actually really looking forward to tomorrow afternoon. I think it's only fitting on 4th of July. We have an afternoon game in St. Louis with the Cardinals and Reds, and it'll be Johnny Cueto and Chris Carpenter, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow at Busch. But yeah, it's going to go down to the wire. And you kind of listed the things that have happened to the Cardinals there, and I could actually go on and probably list about 10 more things that have happened to them this year. It's just been a very crazy, weird year. They've already used the disabled list more times this year than they did all of last year, and they've just had they've only had their projected opening day starting lineup on the field for 4 games this entire season. So it's just been a struggle for them to keep guys healthy. They've had some other fluke things happen, like you said, with the contract situation with Pujols, and they had one of the co-owners die in spring training. Jim Edmonds was attempting to make a comeback and then decided to retire, and they just had a lot of weird stuff this year. But for them to be where they are is pretty remarkable, and that's why I think a lot of people think if they get Albert back here in the next 2 weeks or so that they may be the team to watch out for. Chris Carpenter has had a really weird year as well. Pitched better than his numbers have shown, but he only has 3 wins now, and if he can get it turned around, I think the Cardinals are in good shape. But the Pirates have got to be the team right now that are the most interesting team in the division, guys. You talk about a team that's been under 500 records for 16, 17 years in a row, and for Clint Hurdle to have this team where they are right now is just unbelievable. I noticed it very early in the season. It was probably the second or third series of the year, and in spring training you do all the PFPs and all the work, and then once the season starts, most times teams just throw that stuff away. But it was second or third week of the season. I got here at 2:00 to the ballpark, and I see Clint Hurdle out there with his entire team doing situational drills and pitching PFP and stuff. And he just said, we're going to start with the fundamentals and work our way up. And I think that he's got the right attitude with that group. And then quickly, I know I'm going long here, but the Reds and the Brewers, it's going to be a battle. A lot of people ask Cardinals fans, who would you rather have? Who do you think is going to be the stiffer competition, the Reds or the Brewers? And you get mixed answers because the Reds kind of have the rivalry now, and they beat the Cardinals last year, but the Brewers have played very well as well. So I think the Pirates are probably going to fade off, and then I think you're looking at a 3-team race with the other 3 teams down to the wire.
Now, you do think this one's going to go up until the last few days of the season, or do you think maybe there's 2 that are potentially going to pull ahead?
Well, I don't think you're going to have any team pull ahead by 7, 8, 9 games. I think this no team's good enough in this division. This may be the worst division in baseball, to be honest with you guys. Nobody wants to run away with it. I mean, the Cardinals went 3-12 and only lost 2.5 games in the division. I mean, that's unbelievable, and for that to happen to them. And I would suspect it's probably going to be the Brewers and the Cardinals in the end. A lot of people are still on this Reds bandwagon, but I think they have a lot of issues. I think last year the Reds won a lot of one-run games, a lot of close games that have to even out this year. And I think ultimately it'll probably be the Brewers and the Cardinals, but the Cardinals and Brewers and Reds all still have a lot of games against each other in the second half. So I think the Cardinals and Brewers play 9 times in the month of August. So it's going to be a battle all the way down to the wire, and I'm looking forward to see how it plays out.
Yeah, it's funny. We get to the best race in the league this year. It might be the division that contains the 2 worst teams in baseball.
Then they make the playoffs.
Good point. That's a very good point, because the Astros are just abysmal. They're so bad. It's hard to explain, guys. And then you have, as I always say, the Cubs. Well, they're the Cubs, and that's all that needs to be said about that. And the Astros are just it's hard to watch that team play. And it just seems like every time you look at the scoreboard, they're already down 5, 6, 7-0 in the 3rd or 4th inning. And I know they are getting sold to a new owner that's about to be approved by MLB, and hopefully that changes the direction they go in. But it's just sad when you look at especially here in St. Louis, all the rivalries the Cardinals had with the Astros and Berkman and Biggio and Bagwell and all those guys, and the playoffs they had, the NLCSs, and now to see this team just really not even compete. They've got a couple young guys. They've got a couple players that I like. I like Hunter Pence. I like Michael Bourne. They've got Bud Norris and a couple other pitchers I like, Wandy Rodriguez, but just overall, just no talent on that team. And that is a good point. Yeah, it's a couple. But I wouldn't say the Cardinals and Brewers and Reds are top of the class teams by any means. I really do think it is probably one of the, maybe a good race, but I think overall it is probably the worst division in baseball at this point.
We're joined by B.J. Raines, Cardinals beat writer for Fox Sports Midwest. 2 quick questions before we let you go. What are the Cardinals going to look at in the trade deadline?
Well, they're looking at bullpen help. Heath Bell's been a name talked about a lot here. A lot of sentiment to try to get Heath Bell and make a run for it this year. They'd probably have to give up either Colby Rasmus or John Jay, who are both on their current roster, and I don't know if they're ready to do that. I think they potentially could be here in a couple weeks, so be on the lookout for potentially Heath Bell. I doubt that happens. I think they'll probably go for a more of a setup guy or a middle relief guy and go from there. But I think they like the offense. They don't need to do much there. They like the starting pitching. They're okay there. I think the one area that John Mozeliak really wants to improve is the bullpen.
Last quick question. We got about less than 60 seconds. Albert Pujols, who's got the leverage, Cardinals or Pujols going into the offseason as of right now?
Tough to say. I think it's really going to depend how he comes back and plays from this wrist injury. If he comes back after the wrist injury and plays, his normal Albert Pujols and finishes the year with strong numbers, then I think it's back in Pujols' hands. But if Pujols struggles and it looks like the wrist may still be affecting him, or just looks like there's still a problem there, then it's in the Cardinals' hands. I still think he's coming back to the Cardinals. I thought all along he's coming back, and I think this absence only helps the Cardinals. But it gives Albert a chance, if the numbers aren't where they are, to kind of make up for having a down first 2 months. They can just say, "Oh, I was hurt." So it'll be fun to see how that plays out. With him and Prince Fielder and Jose Reyes all out on the market. But I think Albert, in the end, still comes back to the Cardinals.
All right, that's B.J. Raines of Fox Sports Midwest. Covers the Cardinals for 3 years. Check out his work on the website there. B.J., thanks for joining us.
Hey, guys, no problem. Anytime. My pleasure.
No problem. B.J. Raines joining us here. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll give you a live update from the Wimbledon final with our tennis expert we have got in. We'll tell you more about that coming up next. You're listening to ESPN1080.com Insider Show on ESPN 1080. The Team.
What is golf? Watts is golf. That's Edwin Watts Golf, America's most trusted golf retailer. A new Edwin Watts Golf shop is now open on Lake Underhill Road in the Waterford Lakes area. Golfers can sample the newest golf equipment, browse the latest trends and styles, or have their performance fitting experts match you with the proper equipment to fit your game. Visit the brand new location now open on Lake Underhill Road in the Waterford Lakes area, or stop by your local Edwin Watts Golf shop in the Orlando area today.
How is healthcare reform going to affect you? Nobody knows for sure, and you don't have time to wait. You and your family, you need health insurance, and you need it now. What happens if you get sick? You can't afford that risk. Now you can call for a free quote for low-cost, high-quality health insurance from a name you know and trust. This exclusive health insurance quote for you and your family is free, and the service is outstanding. And they can guarantee your rate will stay the same for 3 years. Yes, your health insurance premium can stay the same for 3 years. Call right now. 800-719-8134. 800-719-8134. 800-719-8134. Call now for a free health insurance quote. 800-719-8134. 800-719-8134. 800-719-8134. Insurance underwritten by Freedom Life Insurance Company of America and National Foundation Life Insurance Company. Not available in all states.
Your Atlanta Braves are bringing the heat this summer.
Breaking ball socked. Did he get enough? Bautista all the way to the wall. Gone!
for Brian McCann.
And we'll have it all right here.
First pitch liner off the shoe of Jurgens. Kicks toward Agla. Barehand pickup. Throw to first. Got him! Oh, my, what a play.
Sunday, it's the final game of the Braves and Orioles live from Turner Field in Atlanta.
On your home for Braves baseball, ESPN 1080 The Team.
This is why we love sports.
Barr back to pass, pumps to the left, 8 seconds left. He gets away from the pressure, fires to the end zone. It's caught! It's Greg Lewis! Touchdown! Oh my heavens! How do you like that?
Orlando's ESPN 1080, The Team.
And we welcome you back to ESPN1080.com Insider Show here on ESPN 1080 The Team. Eric Lopez, your UCF Magic, I guess I'm locked out too, insider. Alongside Andrew Melnick, NBA/Magic, definitely locked out insider.
You know what? I'm taking a stand. I'll never be locked out.
UFC will never be locked out.
Maybe I'll strike, but
That's
I'm not
Brian
being locked
Wininger,
out.
our fine producer and MMA analyst, as well as insider, as well as golf insider, you called him? Just because he picked the second place?
Wiggles,
You like the
boxing.
Jason Day pick? US Open?
That's why you're the caller.
We'll have some British Open talk next week. Update from Wimbledon. Novak Djokovic has a 2-set-to-love lead. He has a 6-4, 6-1 lead. He won the first set 6-4, second set 6-1. And then the third set right now, Rafael Nadal's in the lead. For more on this, let's bring in my friend who's covered tennis here for a long time. He's covered college tennis as a SID. He has covered the pro game as well. Heck, he was even the voice of UCF tennis, Andrew, back when they actually broadcasted tennis at UCF. Did you know that?
I can't say I did.
You did not. Let's bring in Matt Dunaway. And Matthew, how's it going here on your breakfast at Wimbledon Sunday?
It's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous day, and Novak Djokovic is taking care of business, but don't count out Rafael Nadal. He's got a break point here in the start of the third set, and Rafa can definitely, if anybody can come back from 2 sets down, it's him.
All right, for the audience obviously have not clued in, how has Djokovic gotten up to the 2-set lead?
But Djokovic has been serving very, very well. He's been taking it to Nadal, and a lot of the points in the long rallies Djokovic has been able to win in the past. When Nadal has played Roger Federer, it's Nadal who has won the long, drawn-out rallies. But it's kind of been shocking to see Djokovic, emerge and be able to hit those extra shots when he's needed them.
What does Rafa have to do? He seems to have gotten himself fired up here after he got the break early in the third set. What does he have to do to get back in this match and pull off a magical comeback?
Well, Rafa served very, very well. He'll have to continue to do that. And then, when Djokovic gives him an opportunity like this break point that's going on right now, and Djokovic just hit it into the net, Nadal has got to take advantage of those opportunities. And you can see right now Nadal getting a lot of energy from his box now, getting the break here to start the third set.
So certainly that is going to be. So Rafa's in great shape to make this a 2-1 lead. Does the pressure now is on Djokovic here to hold on? And I don't think if you're Novak, you want this to go 5.
Oh, absolutely not. It's a situation where, as the momentum will continue to grow, the confidence will go to Nadal. And Nadal is someone who has been there before. He's a 10-time Grand Slam champion, and I think the pressure could get to Djokovic if Nadal puts him into those situations.
For the audience, Novak Djokovic, we'll talk about what's at stake here. Djokovic 37-1 on the year, number 1 as of tomorrow. Rafa Nadal going for a 3rd Wimbledon title and his 11th major overall, which would tie him with Bjorn Borg, top 5 all time.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, for Djokovic, win or lose, he'll wake up as the number 1 player in the world. But if you lose this match, especially being up 2 sets and not being able to beat Nadal in a Grand Slam best-of-5 set match, you won't feel like you're the number 1 player in the world.
Andrew, my co-host, wants to know, are we ever going to get American men's tennis back up float, right, Andrew? Is that what you're worried about?
Yeah, I think it'd bring a lot of excitement to the sport back here. When I watch, I'm always hoping to see an American. Now, obviously, there really is no hope, so I guess I phrased that wrong.
You have hope. You have hope. You just missed it yesterday. You had the Bryan brothers win the doubles.
Oh, boy. Doubles tennis.
That's pretty much, unless you're putting all your stock into Marty Fish.
I'm not.
I mean, he's number 8. I mean, he's number 8 in the world. So
that's a little rough. Last question, man. We'll let you go here. As we get into the hard court, quick in 30 seconds, Roger Federer, can he bounce back? Can he win back on top? Or is these two guys, Djokovic and Nadal, now the new controls the sport now?
Well, I think Federer can get back into it in the hard court. I mean, because especially the way Nadal plays, he's always 100% mile a minute, and I think that takes a lot of toll on Nadal's body. And then for Djokovic, like you said, the number 1 player in the world, how does he handle that moment? Because there's players that have been number 1, and you'll see if you can handle that pressure when you're the hunted and not the huntee.
Matthew Dunaway, our tennis insider. We'll hear him from periodically. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy your breakfast at Wimbledon.
I did. It was a lovely breakfast. I had some wonderful French toast, so I'm enjoying breakfast at Wimbledon.
Enjoy. Well, keep enjoying it with your female friend there. Say hello for me.
Absolutely.
Take it easy, bud. Matt Dunaway joining us there on the show. What do you got, less than 60 seconds there, Brian? All right, one pick today. We made our All-Star picks. Rays, Cardinals, who wins today?
It's Cardinals.
Brian, make the pick for Jason.
Rays.
Jason would be proud.
Tremendous. Last word, Andrew, I give it to you. We haven't discussed it in length because we don't want to. NBA lockout, is it as bad as everybody says it is, or do you think we'll have a season?
I think it's pretty bad. Okay. I think we'll play at some point, though. Friday we had with Tony Mejia, from Pro Basketball Talk. He told us 45% he thought we'd have a season. I'm not ready to believe that yet. There's a lot of time. This thing just started.
Send your email request. What can Andrew do for work until the lockout, folks? Send it in. Lopez at ESPN1080.com. I'll throw it into Andrew and much more. All right. Thank you for Brian Wininger, our great producer. Andrew Melnick. I'm Eric Lopez. We'll see you next week for another edition of ESPN1080.com Insider Show here on ESPN 1080, The Team.